Hello and welcome to the Tuesday Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who will never play for the US Under-20s. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Don't tell me what I can't do.
I mean, just birth certificate wise.
Those things can be changed.
We both have that problem. I have it twice.
That's what whiteout was made for, my friend. That's how these things work, right? I just show up with a birth certificate that's clearly been whited out.
Yeah. They'd be like, so you're one of the coaches?
Like, no. Can't you tell by my lush facial hair and receding hairline that I'm just not but a 19-year-old?
So we are here to do, I want to call it like a quick take, hot take review of the US Under-20s 4-1 win over Haiti in the U20 World Cup qualifying CONCACAF tournament. It was bad for a little while, but then it turned out okay. Is that a fair summary?
I think it was bad for the first 25 minutes or so, then it was okay, and then it was fine. That's about how I'm going to summarize these things. Does that sound good to you?
I'd be a little more generous than that. There was definitely a spell in the second half where it was thumbs up here in the office.
A solid 5-6 minutes when 3 goals go in. Yeah, you can't complain too much.
That was the thumbs up part. And I want to give you credit, Taylor Rockwell. You kind of predicted that this... we've got to call it like Haiti's U20 team collapsing like after the second goal went in for the United States.
Yeah, I think I said I feel like this is going to finish 4-1 or 5-1. And I was correct with a 4-1 prediction.
And as soon as the Haitian goalkeeper, I'm sorry, I've forgotten his name, as soon as he sort of flapped at a corner and essentially gifted the US a goal, you could see it all started to fall apart. Their offside line was zigzaggy. No one quite had it down after that.
I'm going to say Rouad, maybe, is how you pronounce that one. But it was basically he had been very aggressive coming out for set pieces in the first half, kind of without much like awareness of what was going on around him. And so when that quarter came in, I think as it was delivered, again, not to like brag too much or whatever, but the ball came in and I was like, oh, this is going to be a goal. Because it was just far enough away. It was probably 12 to 15 yards away from goal, and he came all the way out and flapped at it. And you knew maybe things are going to be okay.
When you hear people criticize goalkeepers and say, you've got to make a decision early, that's not always the case. Because sometimes you make the wrong decision early.
Yeah,
and then Luca De La Torre scores.
Just making a decision does not absolve you of responsibility. It's not like, well, I made a choice. I ran 40 yards out of goal. I can't be held accountable now.
I want to backtrack a little bit, just because there may be people who have not been with us on this US men's national team under-20 journey.
Sure.
So we've set up what it is, right? It's the World Cup qualifying tournament. It's a CONCACAF tournament. What happened is the US on Saturday lost the opening game 1-0 to Panama. And to sum up our complaints about that game, it was that there was no creative midfielder. The US couldn't play them through the middle.
Right.
We didn't offer much threat from the wings, and we had a defensive midfielder. Our number 6 holding midfielder was centre-back Eric Palmer-Brown, looking out of position. Our attacking midfielder was Tyler Adams, too far up the field.
Right.
When Haiti scored today, and it was 1-0 to them, I really thought, this is going to be one of those like historically disastrous US national team, youth national team performances. That's the part where it definitely was not okay.
It didn't. The only thing I'll say is that it didn't have that feel of. You always need the US to have one clear-cut chance that should obviously be a goal, and like it goes off the woodwork for no reason, and then it's that sort of like, oh no, like this is not their day. The United States had not had any of those moments at that point, and it also felt like, once again, it was a very nervous U.S. team who were making sort of simple mistakes that you would otherwise expect them not to make. It was balls played directly out of bounds. It was, at one point, I believe, Acosta took a throw-in and threw it directly to a Haitian player.
That is true.
So it was moments like that where it was just sort of like, okay, everyone's really nervous and everyone
a lot of dribbling straight into people.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of these guys who are playing for academies or have just been drafted out of college, don't have much pro experience, I do kind of wonder if this is maybe the most pressure they've been under at like such a high level.
After that Panama defeat, it absolutely was, right? Because this game, just to underline this, was, I want to say, must win. Even a tie would put us in real trouble going into the theoretically much more winnable game against St. Kitts and Nevis in the final game. Can we start with the lineup? What did we think when we saw the US lineup?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, neither one of us loved Eric Palmer-Brown as a holding midfielder. We'd much prefer him to be a center back. That said, I think Will Parchman was the one to point this out on Twitter, that once you lose Tyler Adams, you're always going to have the problems there.
He was injured in the Panama game. We don't know when he's coming back. We hope soon, because he's kind of my favourite player on this team.
And I think I think it's also we hope soon because we saw a lot of the same problems from Eric Palmer-Brown.
We did, didn't we?
I mean, and it was a different formation against Panama. It was a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Here it was a 4-3-3 going forward, dropping into kind of a 4-1-4-1 in defense.
With EPB as the one defensive midfielder,
But it was still a lot of him trying to find balls over the top and a lot of long balls to try to bypass to get in there.
He's not that good.
And it was a lot of balls out of bounds. It was a lot of balls straight back to a Haitian player.
And a lot of balls, EPB just being slow to receive and turn and pass in a way that, say, Sergio Busquets is not.
And I'm not going to go like the British tabloid extreme of saying like, oh, this got to be a goal. But there was even the one when the Haitian goalkeeper comes all the way out of the box, and I think it's on Ebobisse. Ebobisse drops it to Eric Palmer-Brown, and he basically kind of has an open goal. It's about 25, 30 yards out.
Yeah.
And it comes to him, and he's like just so not ready for it that his first touch is like 8 yards in front of him, and then he has to try to get to it, and it's just kind of an awkward process. So you can see that, again, the familiarity and the comfort in that role, not quite there yet for Eric Palmer-Brown.
And so we're going to get to the positives because, again, the US won 4-1.
Right.
But we're going to start with the negatives because Haiti score first. The goal scorer was Kenley, but the danger all comes down Haiti's right side, the US's left side, and I hate to do it, but it is Danny Acosta, the left back who only recently became a left back because he's usually a midfielder. It was kind of his fault for being out of position. Is that fair?
I think so. It seemed like the United States were trying to play a much more high-tempo, high-press sort of style in this game.
Oh, yeah, because we won this back, and the US were all up the field trying to press Haiti, right?
And it's basically a loose ball that Denny Acosta goes to put a player under pressure. And in that situation, with Acosta there, it's a 3v3 scenario. We've got 3 Americans, 3 Haitians, so it makes sense why he would need to step.
Way up in Haiti's defensive third, right? He's gone really, really far. And like you, I get why he's pressing, but you also must know that there's a danger once you do that.
And especially because that danger is on screen. You can see when Acosta goes that Haitian player is still standing at midfield, sort of like, well, I'm open. And Haiti do a good job to avoid the press. A big part
mostly
of that is
through muscularity.
A big part of that is because they're big. Yeah, the US players just kind of bounce off.
Out of the way, like bounce through people. Yeah.
And then Acosta
through the press.
Right. And so then Acosta basically then is out of position. And then I think this is where you run into problems of you don't have that communication between Acosta and Glad. So Glad has stayed back. There's a gap there. That's what Haiti exploit, and that's where the cross comes from for the eventual goal.
I also want to maybe suggest that Acosta not being a natural or experienced left back. Like we were told that he's been practicing at left back with Real Salt Lake, but he's never actually played there, I don't think, at any level. Because he's obviously backtracking, right, Acosta at this point, trying to get back in position. I honestly think there's just like a reps thing where if you've done it enough times, you kind of more naturally get into the best possible left back position. You see him kind of turning in different ways, trying to figure out where is the optimal left back position as he goes, and that is what takes him too far towards the touchline.
Yeah, he overruns it. Yeah.
And he opens up that channel, right, that they're able to play the ball through.
Right, and so, I mean, but I do think that that's not necessarily a left back, right back thing. Like, you should know the proper angle to force them out wide and not let them pass the ball in behind you. So I think, again, that speaks more to me to inexperience and nerves, that you're sort of like, oh, I got to get back. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I hope someone's covering me. And then even when that ball gets played past him, he still is a little bit slow to get back to it because I think he still isn't quite sure what he's supposed to do.
And one thing I want to underline, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but in the previous game, the Panama game, in our review, we said Acosta basically was positionally like all over the place or would make a mistake, the ball would get in behind him, but he would then have the physicality, the speed and the smarts to get back and make up for it. But against better players, I wasn't really imagining Haiti, I was more thinking Mexico, Honduras. Against Haiti, they were able then to exploit that bit of space, get away from him, get across him.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're relying on pace and you go up against somebody who's also pacey, you're in a little bit of trouble there. And that's what you see. I mean, it's still worth noting, like, I do like Marlon Fossey a lot, as I said last show. It's still his man who scores, and it's another scenario in which that ball comes in. It's a good leave. I think it's the Haitian striker, Sprangers, maybe, who is...
Do you have the lineup in front of you?
I don't know what you're talking about. But it's basically, I think he dummies it bounces past, and then Marlon Fossey's a little bit late to react.
Justin Glad misses the header in the meantime, because also he maybe could have just gone to emergency left back instead of coming back inside. Then he's not there to cover it, and he's not there to block the cross. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's lots of different little breakdowns there. I would even say, I mean, it's not that bad, but I would say that Will Parchman, in his kind of preview with you, mentioned that Jonathan Klinsmann has difficulty getting down low, and he has difficulty reacting low. The goal comes, it's about, like hip height, waist height. So it's not that it's low, but it is certainly the case that he is having to slide back across the goal because it's a cross, and then he has to dive back to his left. So even there, it's a little bit of that stuff that Will Parchman pointed out, as it was in the Panama game, that there are certain deficiencies in this roster, and it does seem like Haiti exploited them.
Jim Brochard, who was scouting Jonathan Klinsmann for us, also emailed to say Klinsmann can get beat down low. That's the knock against him when he plays for Cal State.
But with all that said, it's still 1-1 going into halftime because of some good play from the U.S.
And the good play comes from two of the new guys. New guys meaning the new guys in the lineup from the Panama game to the Haiti game. It ends up being it's Eric Williamson, the number 7, plays the ball in for Jonathan Lewis, the NYCFC winger, who is, I think before he even gets to the ball, is brought down.
So right as he's getting to the ball.
Yeah, brought down by a Haiti defender just in the corner of the box, allowing Brooks Lennon to step up, bang his penalty kick.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a really good ball from Williamson to start because the way he weights that ball, it allows Lewis to cut across the defender. And if the defender doesn't make that play, Lewis is in on goal. If he does, which he does, he clips up Lewis.
We point to the spot.
We've got a penalty,
Yeah.
But it's also worth noting there that comes about because there's a little bit of a chaos in the U.S. defensive end. I believe it's Brooks Lennon kind of hoofs it over his own head.
There is. It's because, again, Acosta fails to cut out a ball that's
right.
to him, and then Glad kind of scuffs a clearance that we just get away with.
But what the positive here is that ball's up in the air. Jeremy Ebobisse closes about 20 yards, settles it with a man on his back, and then drops it off very expertly and then turns it his way towards goal. So it's a really good job of hold-up play from Jeremy Ebobisse.
Yeah, and that's actually something that is featured in at least 2 other goals, right? Really good hold-up play from the man I'm going to call J.E.
Yeah. We still haven't watched the video of how to pronounce it properly.
Yeah, apparently Portland Timbers have the answer. We didn't get to listen to it. We will, guys. We absolutely promise that we will. J.E. seemed like the only player who was capable of going muscle to muscle with some of those Haitian defenders. A lot of other players got pushed off the ball. Brooks Lennon got his face mashed into the net at one point.
I mean, Marlon Fossey got kicked in the face. And I do think the latter part of the first half was very kind of physical and chippy and lots of fouls. And I think it starts with that Fossey getting kicked in the face. I think everybody gets a little more like, ooh, right, tempers are flaring. This game matters. Let's all just kind of like not try too much because we could get our legs swept.
But I just want to underline the idea of Ebobisse being sort of strong enough to hold off the defenders and then smart enough to hold it up and be able to play it, which is really what starts that move, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't really have that sort of attacking midfielder. What we do have is we can bounce it off of Jeremy Ebobisse so that we can build something that way.
But I'll say this, though. We were really frustrated in the Panama game that there was never an attempt to play through the middle, even with the man advantage. And in this game, I would say this is the first time the United States try to play through the middle, and it leads to a goal. 3 a penalty, obviously, but still, it is a combination of playing the middle, it's driving through, it's dribbling with confidence, it's playing a smart through ball in. I mean, it's what you want to see from this kind of creative midfield that you expect to be there.
And Luca De La Torre, he wasn't involved in this goal directly at least, but I think he had a lot of like good quick combination play. He would dribble at people maybe a little too much sometimes. He would play some great through, like either balls down the line to run onto or trying to play balls through the back line. He was wearing the 10 jersey and it was at least a little more like what we would like US midfielders to be doing.
And he did a much better job, I would say, than I always want to say Tyler Turner, but it's Tyler Adams, did in the first game of finding the space in between the lines. So the times that Eric Palmer Brown was able to play a good 20 or 30-yard ball on the ground, it was almost always to Luca De La Torre's feet, and Luca De La Torre was doing that very skillful thing of facing Eric Palmer Brown, but as he receives the ball, turning with it.
Yes.
So he's immediately open up to the field and can push forward, and it's not that touch backwards, then take a touch, then turning, and then you've taken 4 or 5 touches, and the defender's on you. It was much quicker.
Suddenly it's a fluid move, right, with that happening. All right, Taylor, we're getting tight on time. We have 3 more goals to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, the Luca De La Torre goal. Like we talked about this at the top of the show. Right? Keeper comes out far too far, drops it. He touches it right down to De La Torre's feet.
Yeah, he claims to be impeded and continues to claim that while the shot goes off.
As De La Torre is like in his backswing, right?
Yeah.
It is. I want to give credit to De La Torre on this. It is a really nice sort of like side foot, powerful side foot placed finish. 2-1 United States.
And I'm not even gonna like from the angles. It's tough to say if he really is like spots like an opening there. But I think the smarter point is you've got a bunch of people in the box who are all scrambling, none of whom can use their hands because the goalkeeper's 15 yards out. So if you put that ball in frame, odds are something's going to happen because everyone's trying to make a play, but nobody wants to be the one to make a mistake. And that's exactly what happens. I think it still does go off of a Haitian player, but regardless, it's on goal. So the credit for the goal goes to Luca De La Torre.
And then the next 2 goals, Brooks Lennon. He ended up with a hat trick. I didn't realise this until we tallied it up over how many goals everybody had got. His second goal, I think, is the kind of sweeping move that goes left to right, like Lewis, Ebobisse, Lennon, right?
I mean,
it's the US front 3.
It happens in the 53rd minute. The first goal, the second goal happens in the 52nd. So it's like within like 60 to 90 seconds thereabouts. And it's basically Haiti put under pressure. Again, that press from the U.S., this time with that front 3 working really effectively. Turn the ball over to Lewis. Lewis drives forward, plays it to Ebobisse, who does that sort of, again, like I was talking about with Luca De La Torre, it's the turn and pass in the one fluid motion. So it's that good link-up play.
Kind of like when you do the 3-man weave in practice. That's pretty much what this move was, right?
But it was really good because it's really difficult to be moving in one direction at pace and then to kind of like stop on a dime, turn and pass. And that's exactly what Ebobisse does. And then he finds...
It's weird that he didn't have a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
He deserves one, but such is life.
Straight up assist here, right?
Yep.
A straight up assist to Brooks Lennon for this goal. Not the bestest ever finish from Brooks Lennon, because I think it hits the keeper on the way in.
It sure does.
But on the way in is the key part of the phrase.
Mm-hmm. And we'll get to it after the final goal, the fourth goal, which again is Ebobisse dropping back, then making a really smart run, so he is onside.
Is it Marlon Fossey pings that ball like right down the line, like it's on a rope for Ebobisse to run onto?
I can't remember if it's him or Luca De La Torre. No, I think it is. I'm not sure. Oh, no, okay. It's Marlon Fossey plays that ball in. It's a long, 40-yard ball. Ebobisse is on the end of it, but he has to cut back. Yeah. He squares it to Luca De La Torre, who shoots. It's saved, and then the rebound is put in.
It looks like Ebobisse has taken too long, right? Because he looks like he's 1-on-1 with the keeper, and then he comes back around and turns and turns and turns and turns. Right. Then he eventually plays it to De La Torre.
Yeah. And so with all of this said, and it's, a 4-1 result is a good result when you need to get a result.
Yeah.
The only reason why I have a little bit of trepidation is because I do still think we're going to see Eric Palmer-Brown, even though we saw, I forget his name, who was subbed on. Thank you. Subbed in. Maybe he gets some time against St. Kitts because that game is slightly less important. Still need to win.
It's really must win because we only have 3 points, but also it's definitely the worst team in the group.
True,
right?
Exactly.
I'm saying that I don't know the Panama versus St. Kitts scoreline because it hasn't happened yet. I'm assuming Panama win that game.
I would feel very confident that they will, even with one of their players having gotten a red card the last game.
Stranger things have happened in CONCACAF.
Yeah, true. But I want to say this. So the second goal comes about because the goalkeeper flaps it across, misses it, goal. Third goal, he probably should have saved it. Kind of goes at him, gets a hand to it, it goes in the goal. And then the third goal, as we talked about, it's a shot from Luca De La Torre from 20 yards out. That, it's a good idea from him. But fourth goal. But again, the keeper gets down and parries it back into the middle of the field. Yeah. So all 3 of those goals,
and also the Haiti centre back just forgets about offside and stands there and plays everybody on. Yeah.
So all 3 of those goals are kind of mistakes from the goalkeeper, sort of gifts. The United States still do a good job to convert them. But it's still just that little hesitation of but there weren't any of ping, 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 pass it into the goal because they've done such a good job.
Yeah. What's the closest thing to something that, if you were going to try and convince someone the US under-20s were the best team in the world, I'm thinking maybe the Luis Ebobisse Lennon goal is the closest we've got?
Probably. Yeah. And then just that, the first goal, I think just how quickly the United States were able to transition from kind of awkward clearance into pass, penalty, goal.
Yeah, I would love to claim that it's Brooks Lennon aiming for Jeremy Ebobisse, but before he turns and swings, you actually hear someone say, "Clear it!"
Yeah, exactly.
So he really does just kick it up in the air.
Yeah. But I think given that there was a time when we thought, oh no, they're going to be eliminated from this tournament in this game, I'm pretty happy that there's still one more game to be played.
You know who would have loved this game? My dad.
Why is that?
Because he always says you can't beat 2 good wingers. That's his ultimate tactical advice. Any team that has 2 wingers that will dribble at people, he says you can't beat 2 good wingers.
Well, he's not wrong.
I could get into a detailed conversation with him where that's not actually correct. But in this game, it definitely worked, right? Mm-hmm. Brooks Lennon beating people, accelerating down the right, getting good crosses in. Jonathan Lewis beating people multiple times, accelerating down the left, getting really good balls in, right? So Lewis and Lennon are at double L's down the wings.
Yeah, and then in the middle, I think we were both pretty impressed with Eric Williamson. We enjoyed seeing him in the combination with Luca De La Torre. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely bright spots going forward, and I think it's a much better overall performance.
Can we end with one downer?
Sure.
Set pieces.
Still terrible.
Still overthought. Still way more thinking that seems to have gone into the trickery of who's going to take it, and they end up fooling the opposition, but then the actual ball that's delivered just hits the first man every time.
Here's where I will show my age. It reminds me of that kind of age-old idea of the 17-year-old being like, you don't even know, old man, we know what we're doing, and then it's we're going to step over, and then he's going to step over, but then I'm going to step over too, and then Haiti's just running and poke the ball away. Yeah,
then some 40-year-old man will step up and be like, actually, if you just lift it and bend it a bit and aim for that big guy at the far post, Justin Glad will head it in for you.
Yeah, so still some work to be done there. Maybe less work to be done, just sort of hey, kick the ball in. We're good.
Yeah, more back to basics, I think. All right, the US under-20s next game. We're a bit more up on them, right? Yeah. But we're maybe not so excited. We don't think they're going to win the U20 World Cup playing like this.
I don't know. We'll see.
The next game is Friday against St. Kitts and Nevis. It should be a win. It has to be a win for the US to go through to the next group stage.
The big question is if it will start at the regularly scheduled time or if beach soccer will be on instead.
So we tuned into Univision Deportes on time, and the game kicked off, 5-10 minutes late, hence our current time crunch because we have to get to soccer practice.
Yep.
Univision Deportes stuck with the beach soccer, which, by the way, was 9-2 to El Salvador over Turks and Caicos. There was no... Turks and Caicos were not coming back.
They were not. And then, when they did finally cut to the game, they started it on delay.
Yeah.
So then it was basically, we continued the stream, which was Always fun.
And Facebook Live was not quite working on all devices and all browsers, so that took some doing. I guess these are very much first world problems. There used to be a time where you could not watch under 20 qualifying.
Correct.
I've just realised I was complaining about something that I should not be complaining about.
So let's move from complaining to talking about wonderful things.
Okay.
And specifically wonderful people, specifically the wonderful people at Roughneck Scarves.
Yes, today's episode is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves, makers of quality soccer scarves, makers of official soccer scarves for US Soccer, which is why we have them sponsor our US Soccer themed content, Major League Soccer, USL, and NCAA.
That's right.
And actually, there were players from all the 4 of those things featured in today's game.
Oh, wow, there were. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Good stuff.
It's very much a roughneck game.
Roughneck Scarves is committed to providing passionate soccer fans with outstanding customer service, professional design, and the highest quality soccer scarves in the world. Those will be on display at City Stadium, for example. As you said, they're the official scarf providers of the USL, Richmond Kickers, playing here pretty soon and playing here on television, which is exciting.
Oh, yeah. Richmond Kickers are going to be live on CBS here in Richmond, proper CBS network. And Taylor and I are proud that we will be in the broadcast booth. We'll be the announcers for that game. We did it last year, but it was mostly streamed on YouTube. So this is kind of exciting for us. Also exciting for the Richmond Kickers, because hopefully we fill City Stadium, make the Kickers look great on TV. Then more people come and watch the Kickers, and it snowballs from there. Eventually, they're the biggest team in the whole world.
I like that plan. I don't see what could go wrong. Yeah. So as you said, official scarf provider of US Soccer, MLS, NCAA, USL. That's roughneckscarves.com. That's RUFF scarves.com.
You're missing one. They're also the official scarf provider of the Total Soccer Show. You may have heard of it. Roughneck have created a hello and welcome scarf. On one side it says Total Soccer Show. On the other side it says hello and welcome and ellipses. I asked them to add an ellipsis. And then you've got the Total Soccer Show logos on either end.
Indeed you do.
You can get 20% off that scarf or any other scarf you can find at roughneckscarves.com by using the discount code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase, we think. 20% off, which is actually a lot off from the scarf.
It is. It's a
fifth of a scarf.
It's a wonderful
You get a whole scarf for it.
You do. The whole scarf, not just parts of it. That's good. That'd be kind of a bummer, I think. Final segment before we get out of here to go play some soccer?
Yeah, let's do that. We should give a quick mention to the UEFA Champions League, which is maybe the second most important thing that happened today after the US Under-20 qualifying.
Yeah, I think so.
Man City's 5-3 win over Monaco we saw bits of it, right? We can't really analyse it because we only saw bits of it.
Right.
Some great chipping from Falcao, some less good penalty taking from Falcao. 5-3 win to Man City and 4-2 win for Atletico over Bayer Leverkusen. Hopefully, maybe we'll get a better look at those games in the next couple of days. Right now, it comes second to the US Under-20s.
Yep, and no goals from Kevin De Bruyne, no goals from Wonderkins. So I don't believe you get any prediction points back.
So if you listen to the goal math this morning, my prediction was Kevin De Bruyne would score for Man City. He didn't even get an assist, and he was on for all 5 of those goals.
He did it on purpose.
I'm sure he must have been involved. He must have been.
No assists.
It was Kai Havertz, I predicted, would make the front page of Reddit for something skillful. Of Reddit Soccer, not Reddit homepage.
Well, we'll have to check that later on.
I think we can assume he didn't.
All right, fair enough. And maybe we'll get back to some Champions League coverage later on in the week.
Yeah,
potentially.
There's still Juve, Porto, and Sevilla, Leicester to go.
Indeed.
But speaking of talented young players, Kai Havertz is part of the TSS scouting network. We have 4 reports about other players in the TSS scouting network. Taylor, would you like to start us off?
Sure. The first one comes from John Adams, scouting Shayon Harrison, the 19-year-old forward for Yeovil Town on loan from Tottenham, and sometimes back at Tottenham, it seems. Despite being on loan with Yeovil Town until the end of the season, Shayon played in a Premier League 2 match for Tottenham Hotspur on Monday night. Evidently, if both clubs agree, this is John's report, a loan player can join his or her parent club for development games without the status of the loan having to change. It sounds like this was an attempt to get Harrison 90 minutes of game time since his League 2 appearances for Yeovil have been 20 minutes or less.
One of my favourite things about TSS Scout Network is how we're learning more and more about the loan system. Because I would have said, no way can that happen.
Right.
But apparently it does, right? I trust John Adams.
Yep.
I trust John Adams.
Development games, that's the key.
Up next, Rich Hunter is scouting Nathan Ake, I believe is how you pronounce that, the 22-year-old Dutch defender/midfielder for Chelsea. Rich says Ake celebrated his 22nd birthday by playing the full 90 for Chelsea's back three during their recent FA Cup win over Wolves, sorry, Daryl. It's okay, Rich, it's okay. The Dutchman started on the left side, his first time playing there after his return from a successful loan spell at Bournemouth. If Ake is able to feature regularly with the first team, he'll be the first Chelsea Academy product to do so since John Terry broke into the lineup back in the year 2000.
Oof.
Oof, indeed.
Oof, indeed. One Academy player who has broken through is Ruben Neves, scouted by Jay Glenn.
Sure has.
19-year-old Portuguese midfielder for Porto. Ruben Neves returned from injury this past weekend against bottom-of-the-table side Tondela. He started the game as captain, he's 19, and scored a beauty from open play in the 52nd minute. He collected a loose ball about 40 yards from goal, pushed forward a few yards, and then sent a rocket into the back corner. Porto went on to win that game 4-0.
All right, go Ruben Neves.
It's a very pretty goal. It's really well done.
Ruben Neves is like primo Total Soccer Show Scouting Network
a little
talent,
bit,
right?
little bit.
Another guy who is primo in the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, we haven't heard reports about him, Yuri Tielemans of Anderlecht. Now, we saw on Twitter, he scored 2 goals in the space of 2 minutes this weekend, both from 30 yards, one with his right foot, one with his left foot. We want to make sure that Tielemans is scouted. If you are someone who has signed up to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you're waiting for a player, and you want to scout Yuri Tielemans, email us. Email contact@totalsoccershow.com. Subject line, Itchy Feet Yuri Tielemans, give him to me now. And the first person to do so, I'll make sure, is assigned Yuri Tielemans, who is going to be a super duper duper star.
And final report, Mr. Grove?
Comes from Brian Watley, who is scouting Sergio Diaz, the 18-year-old Paraguayan attacker for Real Madrid Castilla. Brian says, Sergio Diaz continues to get regular minutes with the Castilla team, but he hasn't scored since early November, and has been moved from centre forward to right wing since the beginning of December.
That's why I labelled him an attacker and not a forward.
Good work. There have been 15 goals scored since he was moved to right wing, and he has not been involved in any of them. 0 goals, 0 assists in the 788 minutes he has been on the field. Maybe he's contributing defensively? In addition, Diaz was not included in the U20 Paraguayan national team squad for the 4 games in the South American Championship they played at the end of January 2017. Wow, that is not good news for Sergio Diaz.
Not great. But still at Real Madrid Castilla. At least there's that.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing better than we were.
Yeah. Slightly. Only slightly.
So if you would like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you can go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. If you'd like to get a scarf, the website is roughneckscarves.com. Use the coupon code Total Soccer Show, all one word.
RUFF.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. The link will be in the show notes. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to watch some soccer and talk some soccer with me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We will talk to you again tomorrow. We'll be back with some soccer terminology.